Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. I'm so glad that you've joined me today. And I have joining me again today, Pastor Billy Crone. We're going to be talking about his book and documentary, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Coming Mark of the Beast. Now, this is a fascinating topic that we're talking about today. You want to stay tuned for this. Let me tell you, we have coming up very soon now our Prophecy Conference, September 16th, Fellowship Church, Grapevine, Texas, a part of the Metroplex here. 5 minutes from DFW Airport if you're flying in. We would love to have you join us. Go to endtimes.com. You just see there where it talks about conferences. You can reserve your seat. You can actually see a map of the seating. You can reserve your exact seats or seat or seats. If you're a paid subscriber to endtimes.com, you get a 50% discount. And so it's a wonderful discount. If you're bringing 10 or more people, you get a 40% discount. And so we want you to bring church groups. We have a lot of church groups that are coming. We would love to see you there. Pastor Billy Crone, Pastor Ed Young, who's the pastor of Fellowship Church, wonderful pastor and Bible teacher. Dr. Tony Evans, who's a Bible scholar and end times expert, will be joining us there. Dr. Mark Hitchcock, Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, myself will all be there that day. It is going to be a tremendous time. We want you to join us there for our Tipping Point Prophecy Conference. Go on endtimes.com. Sign up right now. Billy Crone is going to be with us. Now, Billy is a regular guest here on the Tipping Point Show. He's the senior pastor of Sunrise Bible Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. In addition to being a pastor, he's a very gifted author, conference speaker, and teacher. He's written many books on the end times, and he's produced many documentaries on the end times. And today we're talking about his book and documentary, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Coming Mark of the Beast. Billy, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's great to be on.
Now, these conversations, they're fascinating. And one of the things I love about your documentaries and your books is now you're quoting the people.
Oh, yeah.
You're not just making a lot of claims and stuff that are unsubstantiated. I mean, you're actually quoting the people themselves. But what we're seeing today in our world is just this convergence that you believe is, and I also believe, is going to end up being the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
A one world government with the Antichrist in control. I want you to just, before we start talking about today's topic, I want you just to, for people to know who you are. You were a former New Ager.
Yeah.
And so you came from the other side.
Yeah, exactly. And so really the research on some of this stuff actually began before I got saved in 1993. But basically a former New Ager, I was also involved in the occult and things of that nature, which these guys are heavy into the dark side, if you will, as well, unfortunately. And so I was a part of that camp. I at that time, before I got saved, I thought it was a great thing, that we need to bring harmony to the planet. We need to get rid of national sovereignty. We need to come together under with a one world government. We need to have everybody all tied together, working together to create like a Borg-like existence. And we need a one world religion. And I'd be on the front lines with that. And at the same time, I would say, and you know what? Who's messing this whole thing up? Christians.
Yeah.
Christians are stopping the harmony of the earth. That was the New Age saying, right? And an obedient Christian, guess what? That's what you should be doing.
That's right.
2 Thessalonians 2, the resistance. So the restraining influence. And so I was a part of that. I thought it was a good thing. So this is not a conspiracy theory. These people are real. These organizations are real. This goal of redoing the planet with a one world religion, one world economy, cashless society, mark of the beast system, one world government, it's really real, and it's been in play for a long time. I was there. Now, fast forward, after I got saved, then I began to realize, wait a second. Everything that I thought in the New Age was a good thing that we need to do, and the Christians are the bad guy, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll say this. The Bible, I learned very quickly, is the only book on the whole planet that exposes what these guys are up to.
Right.
Right? It's called The Rise of the Antichrist Kingdom.
Right.
And what's he going to bring with the false prophet? One world government, one world religion, one world economy, cashless society, mark of the beast system. And it just jaw dropped. I was like, I knew what I was involved in was wrong, but then I was like, nobody's talking about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and it's not 50 years down the road, it's happening now. I was in that camp. So the research for a lot of that began back then. But that's why I encourage Christians. I said, listen, put yourself in the enemy's shoes, right? If you want to hide from people what you're doing, then what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to try to get rid of this book.
Yeah.
Because this book, the Bible, is the only book on the planet that in minute detail tells you exactly what's coming under the rise of the Antichrist kingdom.
Absolutely.
So he's got to get rid of it. Well, throughout history, as we know, The enemies try to get rid of the Bible, but guess what? Nanny boo-boo, in Jesus' name, God wins.
Yeah.
He's not so. But here's what he's been doing the last 30 years, even in the church. He can't get rid of the Bible. We got Bibles galore everywhere. So you know what he does? He spread a lie through the church that if you teach on prophecy, Pastor Jimmy, don't you know that's doom and gloom?
Yeah.
Don't you know that's not what people, that's divisive. People don't need to hear that. You can't do that. So even though we have the Bible, he's convinced churches to never teach on Bible prophecy. And so that's why even Christians are in the dark about what's coming. So that's the spiritual warfare aspect.
It's really unbelievable, Billy, because you and I both, and you've paid a price, and I've paid a price for preaching Bible prophecy. I mean, the people that it upsets, but it is an encouraging message. 1 in 30 verses in the New Testament talks about the return of Jesus.
Yeah.
1 in 30. How could you, as a preacher, ignore that much information? It's according to Dr. Tim LaHaye, the return of Jesus is the second most mentioned doctrine in the Bible, only behind salvation.
Right.
And so it's a major theme of the Bible. Dr. John Walvoord, who was the chancellor of Dallas Theological Seminary and a professor there, he has a book called Every Prophecy in the Bible. It's a book that thick. There are 1,000. He located 1,000 specific prophecies in the Bible. Over 500 have come true, but the rest of them are coming true right now, even as we speak.
Yeah.
And so prophecy is a major theme of the Bible, and Paul said, encourage each other with these words.
Yeah.
When we have people watch on the Tipping Point, and one of the comments that we get, endtimes.com, our subscribers, we have a portion, on all of our stuff, they go on there and they comment. We have a community of people pray with each other, encourage each other. But one of the things that we love is they'll say, I've been so anxious watching the news and seeing what's happening, but listening to you talk about the end times, I feel so comfortable. I feel so comforted and encouraged.
Yeah. Well, you know why? It's because you go back to Revelation, and even though the lie out there is that it's doom and gloom, that's not what God says. In Revelation chapter 1, it said, doom and gloom is the one who reads the words of this prophecy. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong translation. What's the word? Blessed
That's
is
right.
the one who reads
That's right.
the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who take to heart what is written, because the time is near. Blessed is makarios in the Greek, and it means spiritually prosperous with joy.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so God gives you a triple-fold blessing. That's not even counting there's another blessing at the end of Revelation. So really 4 blessings if you'd what? All of his words for our good.
Yeah.
But what's Revelation? Apocalypsis, the unveiling of who? Jesus Christ. Why wouldn't you say you love Jesus, why wouldn't you want to read a book that's all about his coming?
That's right.
We're supposed to be the bride of Christ. Last time I checked, if somebody is not showing signs of excitement the closer their wedding day gets, that's probably not a good sign that they have a healthy relationship.
That's right.
Right? So here we are, we're the bride of Christ, and all that Revelation prophecy tells us is it's getting close. Our wedding day approaches as the bride of Christ, and then you want to run from that? When I tell you your wedding day approaches as a Christian, and you literally say, stop that, that's doom and gloom, don't share that with me. It's like, you put it in the relational context, it's like, what kind of Christianity you got?
Well, some people want the world to continue as it is. In other words, they don't tell me there's going to be an end. I'm about to pay my mortgage off. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have grandkids, whatever. And I tell people, when Jesus comes, you will never, ever look back.
Yeah.
The joy that first of all, we get new bodies, Billy. Mm-hmm. My book, Look Up, it talks about, Jesus said, when you see these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your head. Your redemption draws near. Our redemption means we get everything back.
Yeah.
Everything Adam and Eve lost in the fall, plus some, we get new bodies. We get to go home to be with Jesus. We get to go back in the presence of God.
Yeah.
The fullness of joy, pleasure. Mm-hmm. The Eden means pleasure and delight. We get it says, in His right hand are pleasures forevermore. It's so incredible what happens when Jesus returns, and it's so incredibly sad to me that pastors won't talk about it, because they're people. I think the things that are happening in the world right now, if I were not a Christian, they're terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would be so concerned, and depression is at an all-time high, anxiety is at an all-time high, suicide is at an all-time high, because, and Jesus said, men's hearts will fail them from fear and the expectation of things it's happening right now before our eyes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I many times your pastors, I'll say, hey, tell you what, you want to do something? One thing, all you got to do is one thing. And if you start doing this in your church, the church is going to get more excited. They're going to get energetic. They're going to want to serve. They're going to become greater evangelists. And all you got to do is this one thing. And it's like, yeah. What is it? And they're expecting some sort of cookie cutter program. Like, whether here's this new methodology and this new curriculum that we built for you to. I say this, preach prophecy. What? You can't do it. Listen, you wonder why Christians are so distracted and so worldly.
That's right.
And so apathetic and so indifferent to the cause of Christ. It's because you don't ever remind them of their future.
Yeah.
We're not losers, we're winners.
Yeah.
Nobody has a brighter future than we were a church. And heaven's just the beginning. Yes, at the rapture, we get new bodies. Praise God for that. And we go to heaven, which last time I checked is way better than down here. But then we come back and get to be we get to be a part, Revelation 19, with Jesus and setting up the millennial kingdom, 1,000-year reign, peace on earth. Isaiah says there's going to be peace with nature. I could have a pet elephant if I want. It's going to be, it's not make-believe. It's really real. It's really coming. It's really our future that Christ won for us. It's not just escaping hell. It's the future that he gives us on top. And then even after that, we get the new heavens and the new earth. No more crying, no more mourning, no more death, no more sorrow, no more sin. Dare I say, no more devil, no more demons. How is that bad news? How is that doom and gloom? That's why Revelation says, blessed.
That's right.
Those who read this, who hear it, and who take it to heart. Yeah. It's the panacea for Christian apathy. And I'll say this, Christians, in my opinion, in my experience, if you don't want to hear prophecy, read between the lines. I think this could be a big chunk of why, as you said. Because don't tell me that. Yeah. You know, I got my whole financial future figured out. I got my whole game plan figured out with this, and you're upsetting the apple cart. No, they're violating Scripture. It's called idolatry.
Yeah, really. That's right.
And 1 John says, "Do not love this world, nor the things of this world. Otherwise, what? You're showing. Say it all you want, but you're showing the love of the Father is not in you."
That's right.
And I think Satan, he can't take away your salvation. Praise God, but he's got you distracted. He's got you living for this wicked, evil world system instead of the world to come.
And see, Billy, in Revelation 22, Jesus said, "Behold, I'm coming quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according to his work." And we need to understand we're saved by grace, but we're judged according to our works. Mm-hmm. And so whenever you serve Jesus, and see, when you understand the end times, you understand Jesus is coming soon. And the parable in Matthew 24, Jesus was asked about the signs of the end times. He gave a tremendous detail there about what's going to happen. It's happening right now.
Right.
Then in Matthew 25, he gives two parables and a true story about judgment. The parable of the virgins, are you a Christian or not? You know, you may be acting like a Christian, but are you? Then the parable of the stewards. And they were given talents to invest while the master was on a journey. This is all about Jesus leaving, and we're on this earth, and we have things to invest. And when the master came back, he wanted a profit. And so the thing is, when Jesus comes back, he wants our lives to have meant something beyond ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about Bible prophecy.
Right.
And so when you teach your congregation about Bible prophecy, I'm teaching them Jesus is going to come back, and there's going to be a judgment. There's going to be a judgment of believers. There's going to be a judgment of unbelievers. And the judgment of believers is you're going to go to heaven. I mean, it's not a judgment of hell or heaven, but it is a judgment of works, that he's going to judge everybody according to his works. Well, God is not a socialist. And so everybody that goes to heaven is a winner. Everybody that goes to heaven gets Jesus, they get heaven. There will be people fabulously wealthy in heaven. Jesus said, don't lay up your treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy. Lay up your treasures in heaven. That you can only do that by giving and serving. Yeah. When you give to the Lord, when you serve the Lord, Jesus said, if you give a cup of cold water to this little one in my name, you won't lose your reward. Little bitty things that we don't even think about are lavishly rewarded in heaven for all of eternity.
Right.
Whatever reward you have there. And so one of the reasons I love teaching on Bible prophecy, it gets people focused on the fact that Jesus is coming, and I've got to get ready to be judged.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, as Paul says in Corinthians, he says, on that day, judgment day, the Bema judgment for Christians, like you said, I'm not worried about judgment going to hell. Christ took that for me, praise God.
Yeah.
But what did we do after we got saved?
Yeah.
By his Spirit for his glory and honor.
Yeah.
Right? And Paul says, on that day, your work's going to be tried. Wood, hay, stubble, straw, or precious gold, things of that nature. Which one's it going to be? Speaking of the one, continuing in the context there, who really didn't do anything, right? Dare I say got distracted or got apathetic or got idolatrous or whatever, you're still going to heaven, praise God. And he says there, here's that reality of that person. You'll make it, but only as he who escapes the flames.
Right.
So we're getting there, not by our behavior, but by Christ's grace and mercy and his death on the cross. That's it. We all agree on that. But I say this, so you made it there only as he who escaping through the flames. Really? So after all Jesus did for you,
Yeah.
you want to get there with going like, hey, here's some smoke.
Yeah.
Really? I don't know about you, but as Paul says, Christ's love compels us. I don't do what I do because I have to or because
That's right.
I'm afraid of judgment. Christ took care of that. But why I do what I do is because I want to get there, Pastor Jimmy, out of love for what Christ has done for me, to have something.
That's right.
Revelation 4 says, man, we lay it at his feet.
That's right.
He gets the glory and honor for all that stuff. But don't you want to get there and have something other than smoke to offer Christ? Hey, thanks for saving me.
And I think that selfishness is the root, and pride is the root of our sin. And Jesus came to set us free from that.
Yeah.
To live a selfless life for him and for others, and to be free from that. So let me talk about your book here just a minute, because we're talking about, and I'm so glad that we got to talk about this, because we're both passionate about Bible prophecy. Mm-hmm. And there are things happening in the world right now, and you've just got a gift of really taking current events and being able to explain it in light of Bible prophecy. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, the coming mark of the beast. We've had 2 programs where we've talked about this. What we want to talk about in the rest of today's program is what's happening in the area of transhumanism. Yeah. Now this is for, and we're talking about how Bible prophecy can be freaky. What's happening right now in the world of technology is terrifying. And even you listen to the experts talk about it. They're worried about the potential. We have tech giants, we're referring to AI, asking Congress to regulate it because it has such potential to do so much harm. Yeah. But in the area of technology, we're now seeing humans becoming hybrids.
Yeah. Yeah. And as crazy that sounds, that's the major goal of Klaus Schwab and the gang in their event called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which really should be the Fourth Reich, but also called the Great Reset. This is the other half of the coin that people really don't get. Now, the first half of the coin, we deal with it in this book here. They want to do an economic reset. The Great Reset is an economic reset. They want to take control of the global economy, turn it all digital and cashless, then Mark of the Beast, tied into people biometrically of all 2 body parts, Mark of the Beast scenario. People are starting to catch on to that.
Right.
What they really don't get is, oh, no, that's only half the story. The other half of what these guys want to do is a human reset. Because after all, Pastor Jimmy, they're the elites.
Yeah.
And they not only know what's best for us economically, the World Economic Forum, but they believe that in their arrogance and the rebellion against God, that they know better than God. And they're going to speed up the process of humanity. And they're not only going to change the planet economically, they're going to change the planet, and dare I say, all of life. All of life, basically all of God's creation, they want to give an upgrade. Now, they have different terms for that. It's for humans, it's called Human 2.0 is another one. They also use another one, and it's all in print.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right? And of course, that's what they do. They're masters of relabeling for our consumption. If they were to come out and say, hey, we're going to bring Hitler's eugenics program to the whole planet, we're going to create the rise of the Fourth Reich, we're going to create a non-human species and human hybrids, most people would freak. Yeah. So you come up with terms that help people to swallow this, and it's Human 2.0. And certainly for the younger generations, I mean, hey, what's the big deal? I upgrade my phone all the time. How about upgrade my body and my mind? And all that stuff? It's also called post-human species. And the latest one that Klaus is really, and we even quote him with some of that terminology in this book, it's called augmented humanity. And basically, they admit on tape that when we're done, if God were to allow them to go that far, I don't think he will, because Christ is coming back to put it into us, but that we are the last generation of humans on the planet. And they admit it. So it's not just an economic reset, it's a human reset. And they have the audacity to think that they can improve on God's creation. Now, here's what's the bombshell. You're going, okay, now that's really freaky. Well, again, we quote them, show video clips. This is not hyperbole. This is not exaggeration. This is what they're doing. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds creepy, but this is really what they're doing. They're like, well, first of all, why should I know this as a Christian? It's creeping me out. Well, go back to Bible prophecy. Yeah. What did Jesus say in Matthew 24? He said, as it was in the days of Larry. No, I'm sorry. As it was in the days of who? He specifically called out the name. Not only Lot, boy, the days of Lot happening today. But he says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be, not maybe, not might, at the coming of the Son of Man. So Jesus said it, I didn't. He said, when you see a repeat of what was going on in the days of Noah, he's getting ready to come back.
Right.
So do the research. There in Matthew 24, he tells us one of the things of the days of Noah, and it was this lackadaisical attitude about the coming judgment of God. Eating, drinking, business as usual, marrying, giving to marry, whatever. Is that happening
Check
today?
that box.
Boy, that's happening today.
Yeah.
The other big text, of course, is the Genesis account with the days of Noah. That's Genesis 6. Two things were added to that. Not just the lackadaisical attitude towards the coming judgment of God. It was also that the men's thoughts were continually wicked all the time. Do we see that happening today?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But it's the third one that most people kind of skip over that you better pay attention to because it's happening again. Just like Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah. It's the hybridization of mankind again. When you had the fallen angels and they're mixing with daughters of men and humanity, and they were creating something that wasn't human, that the Bible called Nephil in the Hebrew, or Nephilim, which literally means giants. Well, guess what? Even that, and this is what people don't get, even that's being repeated today. And it's not just being repeated, it's a global movement spearheaded by the same guy who's wanting to do a global economic reset, but they also at the same time we're going to bring in a human reset. They're repeating the days of Noah.
It's trying to improve on God's creation.
Exactly.
And that's what the fallen angels did. That's what the devil was doing. You made him 6 foot tall. I'm going to make him 9 foot tall. I'm bigger, better. It's exactly happening. Not the giants from the fallen angels, but we see technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're working on augmenting the human body.
Right, and that's what I call it's the hybridization of mankind. Do we see what your thoughts are on Genesis 6? There was something going on. I just try to simplify it so people don't get distracted on terminology. But there appears to have been a hybridization of humanity.
Right.
In other words, man was being tweaked from the original design.
Right.
My point is there, okay, so we can agree on that. Is that being done today? Is mankind being tweaked beyond the original design? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And again, it's not coming, it's already here. The technology is not coming, it's already here. The technology is already being put into play. And here's the even more disturbing thing. They're doing it without people's approval.
That's right.
They're foisting this genetic altering technology on people, including babies, by the way, who do not have a voice, as sick as this is, and they're already genetically modifying mankind. And they're warming people up to it that just like Hollywood with all these superhero movies, and wouldn't you want to be like Captain America and just get this injection and change you and put you in a cooker and you come out with big muscles and you can heal real fast? All that stuff is not make-believe. Hollywood's the propaganda machine to get us used for this reality that's coming. A new and improved humanity, the X-Men series. Wouldn't you want to have powers like that?
Yeah.
And the X-Men series is part of the other aspect that they're working on. It's called making not just genetically altered humans, but it is genetically mixing and matching humans into what's called a chimeric humans. And so basically that's the fancy Greek mythology term that you're now mixing humans and animals. And that's not coming, Pastor Jimmy. It's all
that's been here for many years.
Being done on a massive scale. And again, they pitch it. It's going to solve to get rid of diseases. It's going to help us with this. It's going to give us better intellectual capabilities and all this stuff. And it's blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. This is a repeat of the days of Noah, because call it for what you will, whatever technology, whatever angle, what is happening? You are hybridizing mankind out, doing the same satanic rebellious sin that happened in Noah's day that God said, I've had it.
Yeah.
Guess what? Bang, judgment day's coming, a flood. And Satan almost did it. He almost polluted humanity. He got down to 8 people, Noah and his family.
Yeah.
And really, what was the ark scenario about? God, just like today, when we're seeing a repeat of this, he takes his people out. They're above the judgment, right? They're above the flood, right? And not one raindrop fell until what happened? God's people and his plan was safe.
That's right.
Right? And then the rain came from above and below. So it's just a repeat of today. And then, but also on top of that, it's being repeated today with that they are hybridizing humanity out again. And this is the importance that we need to know this, that we're going to be taken out of here before Judgment Day comes, but be rest assured, this is the same thing that they were doing in the days of Noah. They were hybridizing mankind out again, and this is really what their global plan is. It's not, for me, it's concerning. This one's really freaky, to be honest with you. But God made sure the last time that he had true humans left. He's going to do it again. He's doing it again. But we're seeing that repeat. And again, for me, it's just another sign. Just like the economic, the mark of the beast infrastructure these guys are building. It's another prophecy angle that God's what? He's basically reminding us that what? Guess what? I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And if he judged it last time, what's he going to do this time?
Exactly.
He's going to judge it again. Now, we know when Christ comes back, and even in the 7-year tribulation, which we're not a part of because we're not appointed unto God's wrath,
right.
We know that God's wrath is being poured out on the planet for 7 years nonstop, and then Jesus comes back and squashes the whole scenario. That's it. It's over, whatever. We know it's coming back, but really when you take a look at this and then the repeated days of Noah, Pastor Jimmy, he has to come back.
That's right. Because
as Jesus said, if God didn't shorten the time frame, i.e. kept it 7 years,
right.
no human flesh would survive.
Yeah.
Could it be, not saying thus saith the Lord, certainly if God didn't keep it to just 7 years, his wrath would have wiped out the whole planet? Could be. Could it be now knowing what these guys are doing, the repeated days of Noah? Also, that if he didn't keep it to just 7 years, and these guys are marching forward with their new improved humanity, that there wouldn't be any humans left.
No flesh would have been saved.
Exactly. And so I think this is very pertinent for what we have to deal with today. The sad thing is, it's bad enough that people won't teach on prophecy so that we can have a heads up of what's going on and where this is headed. Because again, the Bible's the only book that tells us where this is going. But how many people deal with the Genesis 6 account?
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah.
And yet it is happening, Pastor Jimmy, before our very eyes.
Well, DARPA, the Advanced Research Department of the Pentagon, they've been working on this for years. Mm-hmm. And I heard Chuck Hagel, who was the former defense secretary, and he was saying publicly in a speech that we were in a race with China and Russia on transhuman soldiers. Mm-hmm. Now, this was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I heard this. And they're trying to, they are developing the technology where soldiers can see through walls, mm-hmm. run farther, faster, stronger, heal faster, need less food, need less sleep. Just a kind of supernatural. Well, Ray Kurzweil, who is the chief engineer for Google, said humans will be hybrids by 2030, mm-hmm. 7 years from now.
But what was that date again?
2030.
What's his date again?
2030.
2030. It's not by chance.
Yeah.
But right there proves that when they're done, they're not just going to, by 2030, bring in a cashless global economy tied in biometrically, mark of the beast.
Yeah.
They want to alter humanity again. It's the same target date, which tells you where this is all coming from.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you know, when Billy talks about this stuff, these are things that are happening, and we're both end times guys. We're both researchers into all this. This is reality, and in Billy's documentary and in his book, he quotes the sources. And I really appreciate you doing that. First time I saw you do that, we were on a special together on Daystar, and you were showing clips. You showed one clip of this guy, that one of the world tech guys, the leading tech guys, and he was just absolutely elated that we were going to put all this technology in people's bodies, yeah. and be able to locate them, be able to read their thoughts and things like that. Well, this technology exists, and it's not in everybody today. But you look at AI. The 2023. This is the year of AI. Okay. Artificial intelligence will dramatically escalate every type of technology. Yeah. Cell phones didn't come out, smartphones didn't come out until 2007. Well, today, 6.75 billion people have a smartphone. So that's just in that period of time, 16 years, that kind of technology. Imagine for just a minute what will happen with AI and how fast this technology can spread, how fast this technology can develop. So do you believe, Billy, so the rapture happens, the mark of the beast, and your book talks a lot here about what's happening with the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast doesn't have to be there until the middle of the tribulation. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Right.
So in the middle of the tribulation, so if the rapture happened, they still have time to develop technology. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see that. People say, oh, after the rapture, it's just going to be a total meltdown. They won't be able to continue. That's not the picture we see.
Right.
Now, after the rise of the Antichrist, after we leave, right, the Revelation 6, the seal,
right.
The first seal is the white horse rider. Most believe it's the rise of the Antichrist, right. And his false utopia,
right.
especially with those Christians gone, right? And because nothing's to stop him. The fly in the ointment's gone.
Right.
So he marched, but it's very short-lived because the second seal is a global war, the
right.
red horse rider, then a global famine, global death, and all that stuff. and a fourth of the earth, nearly 2 billion people are annihilated. Well, that's it. It's going to shut. No, because you still see the Antichrist marching forward. Yeah. And ultimately, in the midway point, he not only commits the abomination of desolation, declares himself to be God in the rebuilt Jewish temple, but he institutes the mark of the beast system. So the infrastructure is still going. So it's not going to be a total shutdown and of that nature. But so they're still going to develop that technology. But what I would say, Pastor Jimmy, is they're going to still have time to develop technology. I don't think people are prepared to deal with the reality that technology, again, is already here. And it's already being implemented. Back in 2012, they had a technology called CRISPR. If you might have heard of it. But my rule is this, Pastor Jimmy, based on a lot of studies I've done in interviewing people and scientists. We've interviewed geneticists and things of that nature, and also military experts. And based on their input, when they share what they even say is, okay, I'm only going to share declassified information. So this is declassified information. But based on their declassified information, honestly, we're probably 20 to 30 to 40 years behind what they've actually are already doing.
Wow.
In all technologies, including genetic technology. So if you'll admit that you have the ability to slice and dice the human genome, take in, add out, pop in, pop out, including from different organisms into humans, animals, plants, insects, you name it, they're doing everything. How long have you been really doing that?
That's right.
And that was 2012 when you admitted it. How far has it really progressed that we don't even know? I think that's a viable thing that people need to consider as far as that is. But CRISPR is one of them. Another one's the mRNA technology that we have shared the classic clip of Elon Musk, who's also a transhumanist, who's also people thinking, oh, he's a great guy. He just hired for Twitter to run Twitter. Guess what? A new CEO. You know who the new CEO is? She works for the World Economic Forum.
Oh, wow.
Check it out. They're all in this together. We're being ruse. And then I think he's got bigger plans. This is kind of a side note for Twitter. Twitter will become basically the same type of program that's already being used in China to tie people all together. And blah, blah, blah. So he's got a long-term plan. But he's admitted on tape that with the mRNA technology, that it's showing signs, which basically a synthetic RNA that goes into the human DNA to alter your DNA.
Right.
And that's what he says on tape. But he says with it, we could not only reverse aging or possibly even stop it altogether, but we could also turn you into a, quote, blank butterfly if we wanted to. What's that? That's a non-human. It's on tape.
Wow.
I've shared the classic tape before. It's been about a year now since it was out there, and it caused quite a little bit of a fervor because it is very concerning. Jared Kushner, on tape, said that since he's left the White House, he's been working out because he believes his generation, he's trying to stay healthy, working out, because he believes his generation will be the first generation that's going to live forever.
Wow.
And this is where they're at. Now, here's my point. The sad thing is, the elites admit that with this technology, we can extend lives. This is their way to get man-made immortality without God. That tells you where it's coming from. So, lie of Genesis 3, be like God from Satan. They believe that it's going to increase IQ, and they're talking on the order of 1,000.
Wow.
With this 160 is genius.
Yeah.
And then it would give perfect health. I interviewed a geneticist on the East Coast, and I said, based on this, they've already got the human genome mapped out, and they can use this technology to turn genes on, turn them off, alter humanity and stuff of that nature. I said, they're isolating the aging gene and this gene and that gene, or this gene that could maybe lead to cancer, or that to lead to this disease or whatever. I said, so in theory, since they got it all mapped out, could they create like a genetic concoction that you could be injected with, and it would be like a wash through a person's body and to get rid of all impurities? And she goes, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And she's in the field, Pastor Jim. And then the crazy thing is, I said, but people like you and I, the average Joe, probably would never get that. And she goes, no. Right? And so really what you're talking about is they pitch this as the greatest thing since sliced bread for humanity, but it's only for the elites.
Yes.
The elites get this. Now, I still think God's going to step in and stop it. But then those who are left alive on the planet, they want to genetically modify us, not for us, but to make us better servants for them.
That's like the movie Elysium.
Exactly, which came out quite a while ago, which is what? Hollywood shot across the bow of what? Telling you what's coming.
Yeah.
And so that it's called soft disclosure, right? Just so it's just in your brain, a little imprint.
Yeah.
But you received it in your brain because you thought it was entertainment.
Yeah.
Not realizing it was propaganda, which, by the way, was another thing that Hitler did with propaganda things that day. So, but that's really what's coming. Now, I'll add this bombshell, and I actually got this on tape. Same geneticist, who, by the way, we talked about the super soldier scenario.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I says, hey, did you see that first Captain America movie? You know, where he was that little scrawny guy, and they pumped him up with that yellow or the blue fluid, and they put him in this cooker, and he comes out. I said, is that possible? She goes, oh, yeah. She was doing her doctoral thesis on genetic modifying organisms. Her thesis was on worms. And I says, wait a second. So when you put in this genetic altering technology into these worms, how long, not a microscope, but with your own eyes, can you see the actual physical effects? She said, oh, a couple of minutes.
Oh, wow.
Pastor Jimmy, this was like 6 years ago now, when I first had that divine appointment with her. Anyway, and so fast forward, when we interviewed her on these studies, I says, well, wait a second. From your scientific point of view, you're in this field, right? I said, and here's the proverbial question. And this is what these guys say all the time. They tell us we're probably the last generation of true humans left on the planet. They'll admit that. And they admit that they want to so-called improve on humanity. But they always say this: how far can you go altering a human and they're no longer technically human? So I asked her that question, because that's
a good question.
The elephant in the room, right?
Yeah.
You know what she said?
What?
Genetically, 1%.
Really?
1%. She said, doesn't sound like much, but knowing the spread of the genome in different organisms, that at 1% of a modification of a human in their genome, you are technically, scientifically, and with their own terminology, you are technically no longer human than a human is a chimpanzee.
Wow.
So a lot of people think, oh, it's going to take a big change.
Wow.
So here, as concerning as that is, what's the importance for you and I? Why do we need to know this? Because these guys are doing it. Okay, that's freaky. But why do we need to know this, certainly as a Christian? Because this is a huge mega prophecy sign nobody's talking about.
Yep.
It's a repeat of the days of Noah.
Yep.
People not only don't teach on prophecy, they don't touch Genesis 6 with a 10-foot pole on top of that.
Billy, the other thing too is, and this is certainly going to be true during the time of the Antichrist, you won't have a choice.
Yeah.
This technology is going to be put in you whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Now, the mark of the beast is a choice. Revelation 14 says if anybody takes the mark of the beast, it's an unforgivable sin. Mm-hmm. And so why do you believe that taking the mark of the beast is such an unforgivable sin?
Oh, dude, what a brilliant question. Because that's the other elephant in the room, right? Now, of course, we're not concerned as Christians about the mark of the beast because we're not going to be here.
Right.
We're seeing the infrastructure being laid.
Yeah. Right.
But I would go back again to the mark of the beast, buying and selling. God told us that that's what it's going to control with this biometric right hand or forehead. But I think knowing the same technology and the same goal, the same desire of these guys that I believe are building for the Antichrist and the false prophet, maybe it's a loaded term. Now, that's all that we need to know, that God saw sufficient.
Yeah.
And so I will be careful to say, I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, because I don't want to go beyond the scripture. But could it be, maybe, that why, on top of Revelation 13, but when you see it says those who take it, you're basically doomed straight to hell.
Right.
Why? Because we know other people can get saved in the 7-year tribulation.
Right.
But one thing, through the 2 witnesses, the 144,000 male Jewish witnesses, and God sends an angel to declare the eternal gospel. So you can still get saved. You should have got saved now and avoided it. But for those that take the mark, you're doomed straight to hell. How come? Well, number one, contextually, it says there 4 different times in Revelation 13, and they worship the beast. They worship. So you chose to worship the Antichrist on purpose to your own doing. You're responsible for the Antichrist instead of Jesus Christ. Well, that's good enough. However, maybe, I'm saying thus saith the Lord, 2 things based on what we talked about in the last 3 programs. Number one, it could be an issue of the chip that connects your thoughts with the Antichrist system.
Wow.
Now think about this. They're literally monitoring your thoughts.
Yeah.
And what can they do to your thoughts? They can add thoughts. They can delete thoughts.
Wow.
So let's say a person starts to think about Jesus in the 7-year tribulation that took this mark, that gives them access to their thought life. What could they do?
Oh,
They'll
wow.
delete it.
Wow.
You won't get that far because your thought life's being monitored. The moment you even start to think about that, delete.
That's what they want to do.
Right, so that's one option. I think it's very, very viable. The other one is what we're talking about here. What if part of the temptation with taking the mark is it's also a human upgrade?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And that you take this mark and it will unleash a platform that we can control externally which is part of the plan.
Yeah.
And then we could, using AI, which is part of the plan, it will know you better than you. They say this all the time. It will make decisions for you, including for your body.
Wow.
And it will give you upgrades and get rid of diseases and all that stuff. So my point is, then go back to the 1% scenario. So if they start to begin to genetically modify you, then maybe the reason why they never turn to Christ, on top of everything else, is because you're no longer human anymore.
Wow.
You're going straight to hell.
Yeah.
All of this sounds crazy, but it's already here, already being implemented just in time for the rise of the Antichrist.
Klaus Schwab, The World Economic Forum, The Coming Mark of the Beast. It's a phenomenal book and a documentary. GetALifeMedia.com is Billy's website, and you can get the documentary there, DVD. You can also get the book. I encourage you to do that. And Billy, you're going to be with us at our prophecy conference. You're going to be talking about this kind of stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely, in great detail.
Yeah. So Billy is a good friend. He's a great conference speaker, preacher, and he'll be with us. I want you to sign up now for our conference, endtimes.com. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, you're not a subscriber to endtimes.com, $7 a month, $77 a year. We would love to have you be a subscriber so you can get everything that we have. The full podcast I do every week, Tipping Point, Dr. Mark Hitchcock's podcast, Marking the End Times, or Marking the Times, as well as everything else we do. Become a subscriber today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Billy, thank you for being with me today. And God bless you. We'll see you next time.